The late afternoon sun cast long, skeletal shadows across the cracked asphalt of the Elmwood Park playground. The rusted swing set stood still, a monument to 8 years of silence. 8 years since 8-year-old Lily Vance vanished without a sound. The town of Elmwood was defined by two things: the annual fall festival and the persistent, haunting memory of the little girl who simply ceased to be. Detective Marcus Cole stood at the edge of the sandbox, a notebook in his hand, his posture the only thing that seemed alive in the stagnant air. Cole was a man built of quiet intensity, gray at the temples, with eyes that looked less at the world and more into it. He'd driven 4 hours from the city's major crimes unit, not because of a new lead, but because the old ones felt like a splinter he couldn't extract. They called it the perfect snatch, he muttered to himself, flipping past the first few pages of his worn binder. Middle of the day, 3 other kids, 2 parents watching from the benches. A bright pink jacket. And then, nothing. He traced the outline of the tetherball pole with his finger. Lily had been playing right here. The official narrative was locked down. A predator had struck with surgical precision, taking the child the second she stepped outside the immediate view of her mother, Eleanor Vance. It was a story that comforted the town, providing a simple, if terrifying villain. The kind of story where the truth was just too horrible to face. A white minivan pulled into the small, gravel parking lot. The woman who stepped out was mid-40s, sharp-featured, and carried a briefcase. This was Sarah Jennings, the head of the Elmwood Historical Society, and perhaps more importantly, the unofficial guardian of the town's collective memory of the tragedy. She spotted Cole instantly. His city-issue jacket and the intense, searching look gave him away. Sarah walked toward him, her steps brisk and authoritative. "You're new," she stated, not asking. Cole closed his notebook slowly. "Detective Cole. Major crimes. I've been assigned to review the Vance file." Sarah stopped a few feet away, crossing her arms. "Review. That's a polite word for stirring up old dirt." Her voice was tight, layered with years of contained frustration. "We buried this, detective. It was a tragedy. A monster came, took the girl, and left. There's nothing here." Cole nodded, acknowledging her pain. "That's what the files say, ma'am. That's what everyone says. I was here. My son was playing basketball 10 feet away. Officer Finn was making his rounds. Everyone was questioned. The case went cold because there was nothing else to find. You city boys always think you're smarter than the rest of us." Cole's gaze didn't waver. "I don't think I'm smarter, Miss Jennings. I think the file is missing a piece." Sarah laughed, a short, humorless sound. "The piece is Lily. And she's gone. Go home, detective. We need peace, not another headline." Cole stepped closer, the shadows lengthening across his face. "Peace is built on truth, Miss Jennings. And the truth of this case is far more disturbing than a simple kidnapping." The detective leaned against the swing set post, the metal cold against his hand. He understood Sarah's reaction. For 8 years, the community had clung to the narrative of the unknown abductor because it allowed them to believe the danger came from outside. "Tell me about the day," Cole said, his voice low, pulling out a faded photograph of Lily. Sarah's expression softened slightly as she looked at the photo. "It was a Saturday. Mid-May. Warm. Busy for this park." Lily was with her mother, Eleanor. Eleanor was tired, working 3 jobs. She was sitting on that bench, the one closest to the water fountain, talking on the phone. Lily was here at the sandbox with her friend, Macy. The official report states Eleanor looked up from her phone and Lily was simply gone. "That's right. Gone. Vanished." Macy said 1 second she was there, the next she turned around and Lily wasn't. Sarah tapped her temple. Poof. Like a magic trick. They swept the town, the river, the woods. Nothing. Cole flipped a page in his notebook. "And the parents on the benches. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes. They confirmed they saw Lily playing, then looked away and she was gone when they looked back." "Correct. It's what everyone agreed on. No one saw a suspicious car. No strange person lurking. The only thing that left the park was the ghost of a child." Cole straightened up, his eyes suddenly sharp, locking onto Sarah. "That's where the file broke, Miss Jennings? The one thing everyone agreed on. The thing that supposedly makes the case so baffling." Sarah shifted uncomfortably. "I don't follow. The perfect snatch. The surgical precision. The narrative is that the perpetrator was a master of evasion. Someone who knew exactly when every eye was turned. But I reviewed every single statement, every interview, every piece of video footage from the surrounding shops." Cole paused, letting the weight of the years hang in the air. "The monster wasn't invisible, Miss Jennings. He was unimportant. He took a slow step toward the water fountain bench. Let's re-examine that moment. Eleanor is on the phone, stressed, looking up periodically. The Hazes are reading, looking up. Macy turns her back for 1 second. The monster takes Lily. Yes, I know the scenario, detective. But think about the logistics. To snatch an 8-year-old in a bright jacket in the middle of a playground and be completely out of sight within 10 seconds. That requires running, a large object, the girl, and drawing attention. A stranger doing that would have been seen. Then where did she go? Sarah demanded, her voice rising in frustration. Cole placed the photo of Lily gently on the bench. She didn't vanish, Miss Jennings. She walked away. And no one thought to stop her. The air grew still. The only sound was the faint squeak of the rusted swing chain. Walked away. Sarah scoffed. A frightened child doesn't just walk away from her mother and a friend in a public park. No, not a frightened child. A disappointed child, Cole countered. He pulled a new sheet from his folder, a transcribed excerpt from Eleanor Vance's original police interview. Eleanor's statement recorded 30 minutes after the call. She was crying because I told her she couldn't have ice cream. She kept asking. I told her no, go play, I'm busy, stop being a brat. A common parental disagreement, detective. It doesn't mean she left the park on her own. But it changes how people see her, Ms. Jennings. That's the entire point. When a child is crying or acting out, they become a source of mild irritation, not an immediate safety concern. Cole walked to the sandbox and picked up a faded plastic shovel. Lily was mad. She was disappointed. She wanted her mother's attention and she got rejection. So, she did the one thing she knew would get a reaction. She walked toward the entrance, daring her mother to notice. He turned back to Sarah, his voice gaining the steady cadence of a prosecuting attorney. But no one noticed. Eleanor was still on the phone. The Hazes saw a child who was upset and leaving, probably to meet a waiting parent or relative, which is a normal, non-threatening sight in a park. They didn't see a victim being dragged away, they saw a child marching off in a huff. But, she never made it home, Sarah whispered, her arms dropping to her sides. Exactly. So, what happened in that 300-yard stretch between the sandbox and the park entrance? Sightinder? Cole pulled a key piece of paper from his file. An aerial map with a single red circle drawn around a small, overgrown utility shed just beyond the park's northern fence line. We checked that shed 8 years ago. It was empty. Sarah insisted. It was checked for evidence of a struggle, forced entry, or DNA. It wasn't checked for the one person who knew Lily's entire routine, Cole said, his eyes drilling into her. The one person who could have waited in that blind spot, knowing that Lily, in a fit of pique, would march right past that fence, hoping someone would stop her. He walked to the utility shed, now overgrown with thorny vines. The perpetrator didn't come from outside, Ms. Jennings. He came from the inside. Cole looked back at Sarah, delivering the final, crushing blow. The files show Eleanor Vance's mother, Doris, was a park regular. She was often seen knitting on the opposite side of the fence, in the shade of the old oak tree just 50 feet from here. Lily would often run to her when Eleanor was busy. But on the day Lily disappeared, Doris wasn't on the public side of the fence. She was right here, just beyond the thick brush. Doris was ruled out. She was an old woman. They said she couldn't have hurt her. Sarah gasped. The key isn't Doris, Ms. Jennings. It's the man who was often with her. The kind, quiet gentleman who helped her with her shopping. The man she introduced to everyone as her new, attentive neighbor, who always seemed to be around the park when Doris was. Cole opened the utility shed door with a crowbar he'd been carrying. The hinge screamed in protest, shattering the silence. Inside, the shed was filled with old, dusty groundskeeping tools. But on the dirt floor, beneath a thin layer of dust, was a small, perfectly preserved pink rubber boot. Lily had 2 pairs. The one the police found and this one. A child, marching away angry, sees the only person she knows and trusts in the one place she shouldn't. The man who had been patiently building trust with the child, one small gesture at a time for months. Cole pointed to a freshly cut area of the dirt floor. He was never a suspect because his name wasn't in any database. He was just the polite neighbor helping Doris. And no one saw him take a crying child who was already walking away from the playground. They saw her mother on the phone and a child walking toward a trusted adult. The missing piece wasn't Lily. It was the man who everyone saw but no one saw as a threat. The truth, revealed by a simple reframing of the crime, was a cold, bitter pill for the town of Elmwood. The man who had taken Lily Vance was arrested later that week based on Cole's reinvestigation. His name was Arthur Finch, Doris's neighbor, who used the guise of being a helpful elderly adjacent figure to gain access to the child who was always looking for attention. The story of a random, terrifying monster was replaced by a more insidious, painful truth. That the community's refusal to see a troubled, crying child simply walking away created the perfect window for a known man to act. Cole watched from the side as Arthur Finch was escorted from his quiet suburban home. The media frenzy was immediate, but the detective ignored it. He was focused on Sarah Jennings, who stood across the street, tears streaming down her face. She had come for peace. She found the truth. Cole finally walked over to her. "I'm sorry, Miss Jennings." Sarah could only shake her head. "We thought it was the lack of evidence that broke the case. It was the abundance of assumptions. We saw what we wanted to see, a normal park day, a frustrated mother, an upset child. And we missed the whole crime." "It happens," Cole said quietly. "When the eyes are looking for the extraordinary, they miss the ordinary act of evil that hides in plain sight." He reached into his pocket and handed her a card. "The town will heal now. Not with peace but with closure. Lily is still gone, but the ghost is gone too. The fear of the unknown is replaced by the knowledge of the known." Sarah looked at the card, then back at the playground. The swings were still. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice broken. "Now," Cole said, turning to walk away, "you teach the next generation to stop looking for monsters in the shadows, and start looking for the signs in the light." This story is a reminder that the truth is often less dramatic and far more unsettling than the myths we create to protect ourselves. If this chilling new perspective on a classic Vanishing act opened your eyes, then hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dive true crime stories that reveal the haunting facts behind the headlines. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that the most dangerous deceptions are the ones we tell ourselves.